What's up, my goofy goobers? Welcome back to another episode of Commentary Critter. Today we're going to be looking at a CNBC documentary called How AI Took the Center Stage in the Hollywood Writers' Strike. It's mainly about AI. They have some people from both sides, obviously, as you can tell from the title, so I'm going to be giving my thoughts on that.
More than 11,000 Hollywood film and TV writers are on strike.
Hey! Ho ho! Writers, make your favorite shows!
Hey, no, the fuck they don't. I haven't seen a single show in years that wasn't immediately hit with tons of criticism along the lines of, oh, the writers didn't respect the source material. Oh, the writers just copy-pasted Reddit tier jokes. Oh my god, the show was written bad from the beginning. Like, again, it might just be a bunch of people bitching online, but I see that far more frequently now than I used to. And you know, to give a little bit of credit to that personally, I haven't watched TV consistently in years. I don't know the last time I sat down and was so invested in a show that I actually wanted to watch it from start to finish. The only one I can think of is Breaking Bad, and that show came out long before this problem. This isn't actually a point, that's just me giving my personal opinion here, but already I think that's a pretty funny chant given the quality of writing I've seen put out by, you know, the Marvels and the Disneys of the world recently. I mean, what did that Disney movie Wish get? Wasn't that their, like, 100-year anniversary celebration? You think they would have pulled out all the stops for that, it would have been their best writing, but what did that get again? Let me Google that real quick. 48%. It got 48% on Rotten Tomatoes. Do you know how bad that is for a Disney movie? Not to mention their 100-year anniversary celebration. I mean, have you seen the photos from that movie? We're talking about, you know, no AI in the writer's room. What about the animator's room? All of those characters look like they were generated by ChatGPT 3, dude. Not even the most recent one. Like, I'm looking at one of the photos now. You cannot tell me this wasn't generated by ChatGPT. Look at how stiff and inhuman all these people look. They all have like one of 3 different body positions with their arms and their hands and like one of 4 facial expressions. Plus, this shit looks like something you'd see in a cutscene from Breath of the Wild on the Nintendo Switch. What are these graphics? This looks worse than Frozen. When did that movie come out? This looks worse than that. That's been like a decade, dude. This is their 100-year anniversary celebration. This is the movie to showcase all that Disney's accomplished in those 100 years. And this is how unbelievably dogshit it is. They have technologically regressed to make a movie celebrating how long they've been around and how long they've been innovating. And you know, you could say, oh, maybe they rushed the writers, maybe they didn't have a whole lot of time to work on this. I don't know, maybe something's going on there. Why is that my problem? Why do I need to do charity and say that the movie's far better than it is when they wouldn't even put the effort in themselves? If they don't like their movie enough to put the effort in, why should I like their movie enough to put the effort into gaslighting myself into thinking it's good when it's probably some ChatGPT shit from the very start? I don't think they actually generated it, you know, using AI, because I think AI would come up with better content than this. Now, I've already self-reported that I don't really watch a whole lot of TV or movies anymore. Now, keep in mind, I said that that was because there was a quality decrease. So it's not like, you know, I'm not watching any movies or TV just for no apparent reason, and then I only hear the shittiest, you know, movies and TV shows, and now I'm saying they're all bad. No, they were bad before, and that's why I stopped watching them. But if you want to counter me and say, well, since you don't, you know, consume that content often, it's probably just the frequency illusion. Because if the, you know, content isn't so bad that everyone's talking about it, obviously you're not going to hear about it as someone who doesn't watch TV and shows. And yeah, that's completely fair. You have a completely valid point there. I admit that. But again, I feel like I heard a lot about good shows back in the day too. It wasn't all just riffing on bad shows. There's a lot of good shows to shout out, and I also haven't seen that. Alright, I went off on this little tangent for far too long. We're only 10 seconds in. Let's keep going.
This isn't the first time a major writer's strike has put Hollywood on the brink of a full production shutdown, but this could be the first one in which artificial intelligence plays a big role.
There are various tools that are trying to push the boundaries of what is possible. Whether it's the 3rd, 4th, 5th generation, it's going to be very soon, and so we can literally just type in a prompt and see something as a consumer. You don't have to have any sort of skills as a visual effects artist or as someone in the entertainment industry.
Okay, I do understand this point that it does lower the skill barrier, though I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing in itself. The thing I find kind of funny about this is you probably use tools and plugins on your software, and unless you invented that software, you know, you coded it yourself solo, I don't think you have any claim that you're not also utilizing tools that lower the skill barrier for your job. As a VFX artist, I don't think you coded the program that helps determine the ray tracing for all the light beams in your software. I don't think you coded the water light refraction all on your own. And I don't think you individually hard-coded, you know, the points and the lines and all that for each little shape you generate. I guarantee you utilize tools that you yourself didn't make that make your job a little bit easier. I almost guarantee this is going to be like a no GMO thing in the future. You're going to have content that instead of no GMOs, it's going to say no AI utilized in production. I am someone who makes music, okay? I make music and I'm very passionate about it. I take it pretty seriously. And if someone came up to me and said, look at this AI tool that'll generate all the music you could possibly generate for you. If you want to make a song that's in your head, just type it into this AI and it'll do it for you. And I'm not going to dog the AI. I'm not going to say everyone who uses that program is trash. I'm just not personally going to use it because that's not why I make music. I make music to express myself and to enjoy the process. So when I see someone using AI, okay, if you're just in it for, the money and views and stuff, I can understand why you'd want the shortcut. But for me, this is a little bit more personal. The only reason I can see myself getting upset at AI is if it puts out some genuinely good content and then I sit there going, wow, I spent dozens of hours learning how to use this program on top of hundreds of hours of learning how to play instruments, and this dude can just type in a prompt and it makes something even better. But see, that's me getting insecure. That's me feeling a little insecure because I put a lot of time into something that no longer takes a lot of time to do. So I almost feel like this argument here with the lowering the skill barrier is almost people being afraid and insecure at the thought of an increase in competition. If the skill barrier is lowered, well then the talent pool gets bigger, and then more people who might be better at my job than me, and then I get replaced. I feel like that's where a lot of this issue is coming from. Not from people who genuinely have an issue with AI, but for people who are insecure. And again, it's not like these people don't utilize tools that they didn't create to make their lives easier either. AI is just a far better tool overall than any individual tool they might utilize. So again, they're basically getting mad that other people who have just as much, if not more talent, might be better at utilizing the same tools they have access to than them. In reality, if AI is so good, you should be able to utilize it too, just like you utilize all your other tools. I'm sure you use special effects tools for, water ray tessellation and stuff. If we airdrop Mozart or Beethoven into 2024, do you really think they're going to be sweating when they see generative AI and when they see people using, Logic Pro to remix beats? No, because Beethoven and Mozart make good stuff, and if AI was really so useful, chances are they're geniuses who would know how to utilize that tool in a genius way, unlike how other people would utilize AI. So even then, utilizing AI itself can become a new skill that you learn. It's not a super bad thing, it's not something that we need to discourage. It's something that we could learn how to live harmoniously with, how to utilize. The more I'm thinking about this in terms of like VFX artists and animators, the more I feel like this is just people being salty. They paid tons of money and went in tons of debt for degrees that now might not cost anything to get into and be a professional in. Oh my god, dude, we're not even a minute in and I've already ranted this long. I'm sorry. I promise we'll get a move on.
Here's why the generative potential of AI has emerged as a key issue in this year's writer's strike. The life force behind your favorite Hollywood production may be fueled by upwards of 58 different entertainment guilds and unions. These unions operate in tandem with one massive trade association, the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, or AMPTP, which represents all major studios and streaming platforms. To stay on pace with the ever-changing media landscape, the Studio Alliance and the Hollywood unions convene once every 3 years to establish minimum basic agreements. Past negotiations have tackled pension programs, health funds, residual payments, and minimum wage agreements. Of the many topics under consideration in this year's contract negotiations, one nascent technology has entered the conversation for the first time: artificial intelligence.
I hope I'm wrong, but I do think that the use of AI is going to take over the entertainment industry, and I think it's going to be really bad.
AI is going to take over the entertainment industry and it's going to be really bad. Are we schizo posting? Is this Mission Impossible? That most recent Mission Impossible where they have the God AI pulling the strings in the background? Is there a Hollywood God AI that's trying to convert the entire world into one utopia that just only consumes copy-paste bullshit all the time? It's going to be 1984, but instead of, the thought police, there's going to be the human content police, and you just get curb stomped by fucking RoboCop. In the future, in this lady's eyes, Terminator's gonna walk into Nickelodeon headquarters and go, "This content reeks of flesh and blood." And then he's gonna burn the entire thing down. What is going on in this lady's head? Is she schizo posting or is she being facetious?
The last WGA strike in 2007 lasted 100 days and cost California's economy approximately $2.1 billion in revenue.
When I was on the negotiating committee of Screen Actors Guild around 07, 08, we were trying to get residuals for Made for New Media. That's what streaming was called then. The studio said, well, it's so new. We don't know if we're even gonna make money on the internet. I mean, it's so untried, so unproven. And I said to the rest of the committee, we better get some real estate in here because this is just another way to distribute things.
Oh my god. They've actually made my point for me. No one saw the value of the internet, even though it was technological progression, and then they either fell behind or they had to give in and listen to their employees saying, hey, let's get some real estate in this internet space, because it ended up being far more useful and making far more money than anyone would have originally anticipated. But when AI comes around, another untried thing, I would argue the next biggest technological leap since the invention of the internet, suddenly now it's a problem. No, you're just on the other side of the negotiating table now, and you're pulling the ladder up. Did the invention of the internet not lower the skill barrier for the distribution and creation of content, such as, your own news, your own TV show, your own podcast, and things of that nature. Again, she's not complaining when it benefits her, but when she's on the other side of the negotiating table, it sounds like, because she's, a well-established person in this career, realizing that people who are more talented than her might be able to capitalize on their talent with a lowered skill barrier, she's pulling the ladder up, in my opinion.
After 14 months on the picket line, WGA writers ratified a deal that granted the union jurisdiction over new media and codified a system for creators to receive royalty payments from streamed content. The hard-fought win laid a foundation for residual compensation before streaming took over as a leader in content distribution. Widespread consumer adoption of streaming has made it the new standard for entertainment, but businesses operating in the space are struggling to achieve profitability.
Today, the only one we know of that is cash flow positive is Netflix. They've estimated there'll be about $3.5 billion of free cash flow this year. Every other company out there, if you think about it, are losing money. Disney, Warner Bros. Discovery, losing billions and billions and billions of dollars a year. And then you also have to scale this. It's not enough to have a couple million subscribers. It took Netflix getting to about 200 million subscribers before they got cash flow positive. The platforms are trying to figure out what works best from their bottom line.
In the face of weak revenues, streaming companies have been issuing layoffs, bundling services, and removing content from their platforms. While content removal helps curtail balance sheet losses, the action cuts off content creators from receiving residual profits, often without any formal notification.
Streaming platforms that are creating their own content and their own original, they're constantly changing the way they license content. They jump from service to service to service in new licensing deals. Some of those deals are 1 year long, some of them are multi-years. Every time a content deal is done with a streaming platform or distribution, it has a direct impact on those that created the content. Distributors, producers, writers, actors, because they're getting royalties based on that. So they don't like that some content is being removed from streaming platforms because now they're not getting compensated for that anymore.
So I do see where they're coming from here. If I put a product on a platform, let's say I'm selling a type of toothbrush or something, and I'm getting money from that every month, and they randomly take that down, I'd be pretty upset. But I don't think that that's what they've outlined here. They're talking about agreements falling through, a year-long contract, a multi-year-long contract that isn't renewed. Well, if that source of revenue mattered so much, I'm really surprised you didn't renew it. I'm sure some revenue is better than none. Even if the contracts are predatory, at least you get some sort of pay. And the predatory contract angle, I don't agree with that. I think streaming services probably do some shady stuff in their contracts, and that's why they don't get signed. But that's a completely separate point. But again, it does cost money to host their content. Like even YouTube or Twitch, it is not free to post a video on YouTube. It is not free to post a video on Twitch. Maybe to you it is, but to the surface, it actually costs them quite a bit of money. If you look up how much it takes to live stream a Twitch stream in like 1080p, that shit gets expensive really quick to a point where they're closing it down in South Korea. I think actually they already did that. So I get it, predatory contracts bad, and if they randomly take out your show from their service with absolutely no notice, that's also bad. But they're literally just talking about contracts falling through or not getting signed. Why is that Netflix's issue? I don't think they owe you hosting your content on their platform. If you can't agree to the terms and conditions of putting your content on a platform, then you aren't entitled to the audience who uses that platform.
The advent of streaming has granted audiences unprecedented access to massive libraries of on-demand content, a modern luxury that could dampen how viewers feel the effects of a strike.
What the fuck do you mean? They better have such a good explanation for this, bro. I'm sorry that I paused them before they could elaborate, but this better be such a good explanation. Who is out here watching, people picketing, people protesting outside their window and going, shit, I don't know what's going on there. That's a really big group of people. Never seen that before in my life, because I'm on Netflix. Anyways, better get back to the latest season. What the fuck are you talking about? Who does that? What cloud world are you living in, you scam?
Last time the Writers Guild struck was in 2007, 2008.
Skill issue.
And everybody really felt it. The audience felt it, the studios felt it, because if there wasn't new material being made, there was nothing. There's no streaming. There was broadcast television, there was cable television, and there were movies. Now, there's a strike, and there are streaming sites where you can watch an almost unlimited amount of material while we're on strike. So just in that way, you can see how striking now has possibly less impact than when we struck in 07 and 08.
This is a personal opinion, but I feel like on average, shows were just kind of better then. I feel like they got better ratings and people talked about them more. The most common complaint I hear with modern media is, oh, it doesn't respect the source material that everyone did like. And by the way, that points out that the one or a handful of people that wrote the original material were good writers, but all the people in Hollywood that got their hands on it hit it with the opposite of the Midas touch and turned something generally conceived of as really good into something that unanimously was seen as dog shit. If I heard the creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender were going on strike, I'd be a little upset. Tacoma might be weeping a little bit. I'm sorry if you understand that reference. But, if the creators of Big Mouth went on strike, well, shit, I don't care. So yeah, I think that shift in the general perceived quality of modern content is part of the reason people aren't as emotionally invested in a writer's strike as they used to be. The cartoons that came out a decade ago, 2 decades ago, people still love and still watch today because they still hold up to modern standards. But the cartoons that come out today won't be remembered in a decade because they don't even hold up to current standards.
And there were movies. Now, there's a strike, and there are streaming sites where you can watch an almost unlimited amount of material while we're on strike. So just in that way, you can see how striking now has possibly less impact than when we struck in 07 and 08.
I could have played those recordings. I could have recorded your content in 2010. I could have watched your CDs in 2000, and I could have watched your VHSs in the 1980s if you were on strike and I wanted to consume your content. Do not hit me with that streaming, we could watch it at any time bullshit. If the content wasn't ready to be put out, it couldn't have been put out. And if I wanted to rewatch content that was old, there was infinite ways to do that. I know this lady says she's a writer, but you literally couldn't write a shittier point. So no wonder no one cares when the writers go on strike, because this is the quality of writer representing them. And the most valid point they've made so far is it lowers the skill barrier, and that's just them being afraid that people with actual talent, who don't have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to go into debt for some bullshit degree that can be replaced with an AI prompt, might be better at their own jobs than them. There's no reason writers can't ethically use AI. Like, that shouldn't be an issue. And I know they're kind of trying to argue for ethical use of AI, but in their idea, in their mind, it seems mostly that the ethical use of AI is to just not use it. If I was a writer, I would feel extremely excited about AI, because if I knew my writing was good and my employer kept stifling my creativity and my employer kept, underpaying me or something, I would love the thought of, well, let me work on my own script in the background that just I make, and then let me have an AI, animate it or fill in the rough edges where I don't have the knowledge or time to do those things. And then boom, maybe I can, compete and establish myself in this industry and maybe one day form my own company. You think people would see this as an opportunity to be more individualistic and make their own future than to, ask a company to shut down the future of technological progression just because they're insecure about their own writing quality. I like how they're complaining that the companies are taking advantage of them by underpaying them and by, looking into AI, but at the same time, they're only helping the company with these bargaining points. They're not going to be the ones who benefit when AI isn't seen as a, ethical thing to use in media. It's going to be the companies who benefit because they can afford to put billions of dollars to make crazy special effects, whereas the kid at home who has just as much talent to make those movies, but not a multi-billion-dollar team, will never get the ability to use AI to generate that stuff for him so he can bring his vision to life. Are you trying to protect the jobs of writers, or are you trying to protect the market share of companies at the expense of future writers who now might have to learn thousands of hours and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of skills just to bring a basic vision to life like a cartoon, instead of just using AI to help fill in the gaps of their knowledge? You could just learn how to make AI incorporated into your job. And then it doesn't impact you at all. If anything, it only benefits you. This is such a self-imposed issue. It's that footage of the little boy with the boot on his hand, and then you see the boot stepping on his head, and he zooms out, and it's actually his hand, and he's holding it, and he's smiling, he's doing it to himself. They're doing this to themselves. They could utilize this stuff, but they've decided to demonize it for absolutely no reason. I don't know if these people are schizophrenic or if they watch too much Terminator movies, but I don't understand why they're so hyper-fixated on seeing AI as bad in every context until proven otherwise.
With content generation imperative to the success of both writers and studios, the advent of AI has thrown an unforeseen wrench into contract negotiations. Rather than an outright ban, the WGA has proposed guardrails for AI technology that aim to protect the working standards, payment systems, and authorship credit for writers. As for the studios, their statement on AI acknowledges ambiguity around the emerging technology and proposes annual discussions before landing on an official regulatory agreement. The Alliance's unwillingness to outline strict policies around generative AI tools has led to a stalemate.
Why? Why did this make it go to a stalemate? Unless you're so insecure about the quality of your work that you're not even willing to learn how to use AI as a tool as much as you are trying to outright ban it because you're demonizing it. Of course these companies stopped coming to the negotiating table after that. They realized you're schizophrenics who are going to be left behind by the natural progression of time, society, and technology.
As the WGA takes to the picket line, other entertainment unions have begun their own contract negotiations with the Alliance. The Directors Guild of America struck a contract agreement with the studios. On the topic of AI, both parties agreed that AI is not a person.
The whole AI isn't a person thing is already a really weird thing to throw into this contract. I don't think we've reached the stage of AI to where we can start debating if it's sentient or not. That's a really weird thing to throw in a contract. You have to say that AI isn't sentient or we're not going to come to the negotiating table. How is that point even relevant? Do they think they're going to start paying the AI salary? I think if they're using an AI, it's to avoid paying a salary.
And that generative AI cannot replace the duties performed by members.
Also, it won't replace any member's duties. Again, I feel really bad for the guy who's now going to have to go in and manually do all the light ray tessellation when it goes into water. That shit's probably going to take him thousands of hours now because he can't just use a simple program to do it for him. This feels like a machinist going to the, Rockefeller or something and going, hey man, you have to acknowledge that CNC machines aren't people and CNC machines cannot make the parts that humans make. It's like, I understand your point, I understand you're a little insecure about your job, but are you not thinking about the ways your job can also benefit from this? I don't think it's necessarily going to replace you as much as you could benefit from it. So why are you like schizophrenically overcompensating so much with this contract?
Alliance negotiations with the Screen Actors Guild are underway with existing contracts set to expire June 30th, 2023. Ahead of contract negotiations with the Alliance, the Screen Actors Guild voted in favor of a strike, a proactive step in hopes of bringing more leverage to the bargaining table. They maintain that using AI to replicate an actor's voice or likeness requires the performer's consent and compensation.
Finally, they make a completely valid and not facetious or disingenuous point. This is an amazing point. If you're going to use someone's voice or likeness, you really ought to compensate them for it. If they're using an actor's likeness, it's because they're more comfortable with the fact that they might profit or bring in more publicity by using that actor than by using a person, which is why they're using their AI likeness. And to that I say, yeah, absolutely. If you're using them as a, a marketing pull, then they definitely deserve part of the kickback from that marketing and the success it brings. I'm glad to see, one really valid point in here that I feel like most of us can unanimously agree on. This here makes perfect sense. Because this isn't an AI, just being creative. This is directly stealing something that you trained off of someone to use them without their permission while still capitalizing off their reputation and the pull of them as a person.
Really, I think the place that we are going to as a society is prompt to entertainment. Literally being able to type in, I want to see an action movie, and I want it to be funny, and I want it to take place in Texas, go, and it spits out a movie.
I would argue a lot of the AI debate is a service issue. Just like with pirating, it isn't that people want to pirate or piracy is an issue. The issue is platforms are so bad, it makes people feel compelled to pirate as an alternative. If your writing is so bad, it makes people feel compelled to, consume AI-generated content. I feel that says more about you as the service provider than it does as the people who are circumventing your services to look for better alternatives. If what you make is good on its own, people will consume it no matter who it's made by. But if what you made is only good because it has a high production value, once the skill barrier for that production value is lowered, you'll have nothing to hide behind and the people with actual talent will outpace you. I'm just confused. Can I not give a person those same constraints and have them generate something off the top of their head? What's the difference? Like, if the AI makes more entertaining content than the person, I'm going to consume the AI content. But if the person makes more entertaining content than the AI, I'm going to consume the person's content. It isn't me being, pro-AI or anti-AI. It's just that I want to be entertained, and if you're not capable of entertaining me, I'm going to go to someone that is.
This is Caleb Ward. He's the founder of Curious Refuge, a production hub and learning portal for AI filmmakers. Curious Refuge's viral videos have given millions of viewers a brief glimpse of what an AI film future may look like. AI generates content through a digestive process. The model takes in pre-existing content, both copyright protected and public domain. From this, it produces an amalgamation of information. The output looks new, but comes from existing media and sources.
These tools are now teaching themselves based on those iterations and generating its own reference points. Now we're seeing works that you would never know what the inspiration source was, and it seemingly is something that's coming from thin air, but it's being pulled from a million different resources and not just one. Right?
Yeah, that's how we make original works too. I don't know if you can point at anything that's 100% original. It probably is, a hodgepodge, a melting pot of a million different resources. And again, I don't think we're contacting the million resources that we took inspiration of throughout the entirety of our lives to ask if we have the right to be inspired by it. You released it to the public. We're allowed to consume it and be inspired by it. If you don't want people to be inspired by your works, don't let them consume it by not releasing it publicly. And I get if, they completely carbon copied what you did and just tweaked a few things, the copy my homework but don't make it obvious type deal. But that's not what he's discussing. He said a million different resources to where you can't even tell where the original content was from. So again, I don't understand what he's getting mad about. He's getting mad that people take inspiration from things and that AI seemingly can do the same thing that we do. It's not doing anything different than us.
Writers will be able to show what the final product will look like in the writer's room. That has never been possible before.
In the grand tapestry of fate, I'm less of a golden thread and more of a knot.
And so I think writers now are going to have more power than ever before to direct these creative projects.
AI enthusiasts like Caleb see the technology as an equalizer that enables individuals with no experience in the entertainment industry to produce cinematic world.
The kind of structure that I'm referring to.
Creative tools like this have always evolved how we tell stories, and I think that this is just a time of transition for us, and so we're all going to learn how to use these tools soon.
Finally, someone says it. This isn't something that's trying to replace writers. If anything, this should be empowering writers to be able to make their visions come to life more easily.
I think the idea that AI would democratize entertainment is absolutely ridiculous.
What the fuck does democratize entertainment mean? And how did we get here? Has this lady done a single thing but schizo post this entire fucking documentary?
What that's really saying is that the unskilled and the untalented would be able to pretend that they're skilled and talented.
This woman is a writer trying to call people unskilled and untalented when not even ChatGPT could have written worse points than the things she's brought up this entire time. I almost couldn't think of a better example hinting that this might just be a disingenuous facade people are putting on to cope because they're insecure because they know the work quality they put out is dog shit and could be easily replaced by people with talent once the skill barrier is lowered.
As the Alliance and the unions hash out disputes over artificial intelligence, a budding faction of AI filmmakers continues to take shape.
AI is a hot topic right now, pretty much any industry out there. When it comes to video, you do have some people that are saying that they think it's going to replace writers or directors or production, pre-production, post-production. So does anybody out there know what the impact of AI is going to be yet? No.
If it's far too early to understand the impact or benefits of AI, then why are we trying to demonize it and ban it so preemptively?
It's far too early. I look back in the days of when YouTube first started, and there was this idea that because YouTube is this open platform and anyone can create videos, that users themselves would replace studios out there creating all their own content because it was free to upload, it was free to stream. But the reality is we're all looking for the best content.
Exactly, it's not so deep. It isn't always a human versus machine issue. Sometimes we just want to consume good content, and if that content happens to be generated by a machine, well, I'm sorry, I don't really care. I'm just here to be entertained, not look for a GMO sticker to make sure that your content was produced by only humans.
80% of your traffic comes from 20% of your content. Oh, the video is storytelling. And I believe you have to have a human to really tell that story.
80% of your traffic comes from 20% of your content, but with video, it's storytelling. Am I having a stroke? Was that written by ChatGPT? What does that mean and how does that relate to this? Can someone fill me in? What traffic and what does that have to do with this? Is he saying like, oh, you only click on 20% of the content shown to you 80% of the time? And if that is what he's making, he did a really shit job at saying it. Again, for something supporting writers, they really have the worst rating I've ever seen for their articulating their points here. They're really not helping out writers' case by bringing on all these people who cannot articulate a point properly to save their lives. Or should I say to save their jobs, actually, that'd be a much better thing. What better way to close out a video on how AI shouldn't replace humans and it's unethical and writers are, super talented, than to end it with one of the most incomprehensible, incoherent statements I've ever heard in my life. Alright, that's where I'm going to leave this video off. I think this is going to be a little bit over the 10-minute length of the original video, so I'm definitely going to cut myself off here before I keep going. I've already restated the same points like 4 times, so I think it's safe to close it out here. I will see you guys in the next one. Stay goofy, my goobers.
Come over here and kiss me on my hot mouth.